Hello everyone, my name's Wimpy, welcome to my world, and welcome back those of you that have been here before. Right, so it's another stream. Let's get the technical difficulties out of the way early. One of the lights is quite literally on the blink, so that's going to be fun. Anyway, so aside from the light going on and off, which might wipe out the chroma effect here, I was going to give an update on Quickemu, which I introduced in the last live stream, I think, and I've been working on that in the evenings the last few days. I've been busy and I haven't been able to stream, but I have been able to. There goes the lamp again. It's going to be fun, isn't it? But I have been working on it, so I was going to introduce an update there and look at some of the new features. And then somebody raised an issue wanting to get it working with Windows. And I thought, well, that sounds like a fun challenge. But most importantly, it means I'd have to change the script a bit, so I'll just do some coding. Now, when I get into that stuff, it might be me here tugging on my hair, going humph a lot, but you'll get the idea. It's going to be, you know, live coding, shell scripting. So, without further ado, let's bring a few bits in. So, we have this here, which is the project itself. I've made a nice bit of documentation for it. That's always good in an open source project. A link to the video, of course. How to get it up and running. The first major change to Quickemu is that it now exclusively talks to QEMU Virtual, which is a snap of a fully accelerated QEMU. So it has Virtual 3D support, for example. I'll get into that in just a moment, among other things. And the reason that I've moved to the snap exclusively is it's a single configuration of QEMU to talk to, so I don't have to worry about different versions in legacy distros. You can install the snap all the way back to Ubuntu 16.04 and other Linux distros of that era, and it makes it easy for me. Right, I'm just going to check with the chat to see if there's anything I need to check up on, because last time I did this I was sounding like Barry White about now. Right, okay, so yeah, FerranOS developer is in the chat, and somebody was asking what FerranOS is. Right, okay, and Carlo's saying he's thinking of replacing GNOME boxes with a similar script. No need for a similar script. This is the script you're looking for, Carlo. I'll get into it in a moment. So, yes, this should be able to do some... So, Cody was asking about virtualizing Windows machines for gaming, and this could do it. Let's see how successful we are in adding that support. But I'll show you some of the 3D acceleration that exists in the Linux side of things at the moment. Snaps for everything, yeah. The sound is a bit glitching, so if someone else can confirm that. I've checked and double checked my audio this evening. I really hope it's okay. Okay, good, thank you. Right then, so carrying on. So Quickemu now exclusively talks to QEMU Virtual. And one of the reasons for doing that is I did some work on QEMU Virtual. So I put together a pull request for my friend and colleague, Ogra, who is the publisher of that snap, which made a bunch of changes, as you can see here. Some of it was performance improvement. Some of it was bringing the size of the snap down. There was just some of it was adding Samba, or a mini version of Samba, inside the QEMU Virtual snap. So now you can easily expose files from the host to the guest without having to have Samba running on your own machine. So it just trims everything down. So consequently, I've been able to remove a whole bunch of stuff that I had on my machine. I don't have to have Samba running on my host machine anymore. It's all nice and tidy, all isolated away in the snap. So that was the work I did there, and Ogra merged all of that and published a new version of QEMU Virtual to the Edge channel. of the snap store. So my instructions now expressly say you need the version from Edge. So if you don't have the version from the Edge channel, you need to get that. And then I added a few things. The first thing I did was I tidied up the output. So as it starts up, it gives you some status information on the state of the virtual machine. And there's a couple of things in here that are worth pointing out. So it always did this, but CPU and RAM are automatically allocated based on the capabilities of your machine. So it'll automatically work out how many CPU cores and threads you have available and try and pick a sensible amount, and the same goes for RAM as well. It will default to turning on all of the 3D acceleration. We'll take an actual look at that in a moment. By default, it uses the SDL output. I've found that to be much more reliable. And most importantly, the following bit here, I can actually send display resolution, which it honors. So again, what Quickemu does now is it will enumerate all of the screens you have connected to your computer. I have 3, and based on the resolution or the lowest resolution of your connected screens, it will pick a window size for the emulated operating system that's large enough to just fit inside that lowest resolution screen, whilst preserving a 16:9 aspect ratio for the guest. So this display resolution here, I have 3 monitors, 2 are 1440p, and this one that I'm streaming from is 1080p. So this 1664:936 is a divisible by 8 16:9 resolution that fits nicely inside inside a 1080p window. Let's have a little look what's going on in the chat here. Yeah, well, I can't afford the I can't change the stream latency. That's not in my control. That's all down to YouTube. Stuart Howlett asks if this script works on Manjaro. Should do. Manjaro have snap support baked in, so you should just be able to snap install, follow the same instructions on this page here, and get up and running. If you have a go at that, let me know. Right, so I think that's most of the changes. Oh no, here we go. Here's a few more here. So I think last time out, EFI support I'd labelled as experimental because I couldn't get that to work reliably with the 3D acceleration. That's now fixed, so I'm now marking EFI support as, properly supported. So EFI or legacy booting works and 3D acceleration is preserved. I've added snapshot support, so you can create snapshots from the disk images and roll back and delete them and all the rest of it. And I've also added this feature here called status quo, and what that will do is when you start a VM with status quo flag set, it won't write any persistent changes to the disk image. So whilst the VM is up and running, you can install and remove software and change configuration and mess around, but when you shut that machine down, none of those changes have been committed to disk. Start it up and it was as it was for the prior boot. So it's kind of like snapshot light, but this is really useful if you want to just repeatedly keep testing a thing, and see if you've got it right. It's quite useful when you're doing distro testing and stuff like that. You want to keep working over a configuration multiple times. So that's what we've got there. I've explained this. So there was an issue that somebody raised earlier. Well, status quo could do whatever you want. I was very, very tempted to embed an Easter egg where it played Rockin' All Over the World. So somebody raised an issue earlier, which they've subsequently closed, which was this one. And they said that Windows doesn't detect the hard disk. There's no errors, it just can't detect it. And then there was a little discussion here, and somebody made a suggestion how to modify the script directly. And they said that worked, and maybe I should add a solution in the README. By the time I saw this being closed, I'd already been looking at what was required. So I've downloaded a Windows 10 ISO from Microsoft. This is going to be challenging for me, and I'm hoping there are Windows aficionados in the chat, because I'm not super up to speed on Windows these days. So going to have fun with this. But I've downloaded my 5GB ISO image, and I have also downloaded the ISO image of the VirtIO drivers for Windows. VirtIO being the accelerated virtualization interfaces for disk and serial, and in some cases USB and network, a whole bunch of things. So these driver support for Windows for accessing that stuff, all that's turned on by default in Linux distros these days, which is why it just works. But before we get into that, maybe I should just have a quick look and show you some of the cool things what we can do now. So where did I have my let's just go to development. Now we're going to find out if I've actually got my my thing right. So if I do Quickemu VM, yeah, focal desktop. So if I run that, it will boot my. I've got a focal machine there. There it comes. And there's that status information I mentioned. I'm booting a legacy BIOS. Oh, hang on. I say I'm booting. I'm doing this on a screen none of you can see. Let me just go and grab that and bring that down onto the... Here we go. And as you can see, this is an illustration of the display being large, but small enough that it just fits on the resolution of my lowest resolution connected screen. So I shall log in. This is hopefully an up-to-date focal. And if we look here in settings, you'll see that for graphics it says Virgil, which is the 3D acceleration that almost passed through, not quite. And if we bring up a terminal, if we grep for we can see here this is the 3D acceleration getting enabled here. I've just realized I need to turn on the host machine here. It's that oh my goodness. I've just remembered that there we go. Right, I hadn't done that thing where it needs to make sure the NVIDIA doesn't flick and flack. Right, so let's have a look then. Okay, Ferrin says he's kind of good with Windows. That's handy. And Bill says, does the ISO auto activate? No, it's just the version from Microsoft for demos and stuff. So what does this mean? So if I if we want to take a look at 3D performance inside a VM, this VM has got oh goodness, I need to get on the right screen. This VM has got 4 CPU cores and 4 gig of RAM allocated, and I'll run glmark. So this is glmark running inside the virtual machine, and you can see here using the Virgil driver. And let's just stop doing things. Let's see what we get here. So it looks like this is quite down, so that's a bit better. But as you can see, it's running at a decent number of frames per second. It probably runs at about double this when I'm not doing the live streaming, because at the moment I'm doing this live streaming all encoded on the GPU as well. So this is rendering my desktop and that virtual machine desktop and this GLMark run, but nevertheless GLMark is running with thousands of frames per second. Well, I think that what I've done, so Bill is saying I need to get the Windows ISO that's used in the Clouds snap, and I believe I'm using the same ISO that downloads, yeah. That's, you know, pretty great. This was kind of working before, but it now works nice and reliably. So one of the things I added to QEMU Virtual was GBM memory allocation for EGL, which reduces the number of copies that happen when it's rendering. Get a slight performance bump there. And I also replaced the malloc in QEMU itself with JE malloc, which is quite considerably faster for memory allocation inside VMs. So those two things together, plus some other tweaks and optimizations, this is now working quite reliably. Anyway, we don't need to see that render all the way out, but we can demonstrate a feature here. So if I power off this VM, and I'll now start it in status quo mode. It starts it off on a different screen, which is a bit annoying, but anyway, here it comes. So we'll just quickly... also, when I ran that last time, I was actually running that in Wayland. So you'll notice if I click this and click here, you can see here the last session I was running on Wayland as well. So this is quite handy because it's a means to test things on Wayland and X11 without having to mess around with actual hardware, and you can flip between legacy BIOS and EFI as well. So it's not testing on real hardware, but it provides a lot of the capabilities that you want when you're testing distros. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this tool public and refine it a little bit is, as we approach the 2004 release, really want to encourage more people to get testing, and I wanted to make it really easy for people to get a decent experience so they can properly, you know, test things. So did I switch that to Wayland? I can't remember if I switched the display server or not. What did I do? Yes, I switched to X11. So that's not installed, so we'll apt install ffmpeg. This is a little segue, in fact. So a couple of streams ago I talked about updates to Steam and ffmpeg and envenc, and the stuff that I'd been working on regarding ffmpeg and envenc was sort of in flight. It hadn't landed, but I was, you know, needed to go through some policy and what have you. That has all landed now. So when this finishes installing, if I just run ffmpeg, somewhere in here we will see that flag there, enable envenc. So that is all hooked up and in the distro, so I'm really pleased about that. And I've just installed ffmpeg whilst I had status quo enabled. So I'm going to shut down, power off the machine, and start it back up again. I'll just turn this off. It doesn't matter whether it's on or off, but I'll start it up again. course, it's on the other screen again. Awesome. Maybe I'll add something to try and get it to start on what monitor you're actually active in. So I'm booting into the same machine, but last time none of the disk activity was committed to disk. So if I open up a terminal and now run ffmpeg, it's not there because none of those changes have been accepted. So I'm going to use the heck out of that. I find that a really useful feature. Right then, so that's enough of that. Let's have a look at trying to get Windows to go. So what are we going to need for that? We're going to need a code editor. Right then, this is Quickemu. I will plonk that over here, and I'll also bring this down. Oh, hello. That's interesting. Okay, well, okay, it is what it is. Right. Okay. Right then. That is... So I downloaded... I've got a folder here called Windows 10, and I've got in there the Windows 10 ISO and the driver ISO. Yeah, so Bill in chat is saying that status quo looks like it will be very useful. Bill, I was thinking of you when I added that. I say added it. It wasn't hard to add. It's a capability of QEMU. I've just exposed it in a nice, convenient way. I was trying to think of a good name for that flag, and I asked my wife, so she came up with the idea of status quo, which of course is a perfect way to describe the capability. So I'm going to need to create a virtual machine image, and because it's easier to copy things than not, we'll copy focal desktop to, we'll simply call it Windows 10.conf. That was the name of the ISO there, so we'll copy that. We'll nano. Does anyone know? I take it Windows 10 can boot on EFI and legacy systems. I assume that's the case. So, a configuration file for Quickemu is basically 2 lines. That and disk image, and we'll simply call this Windows 10. Right. Let's have a look. Has anyone answered my question? Boot EFI and legacy. Okay, that's handy. Thank you, Ferren. Oh, hey, Hayden. How are you? Nice to see Hayden in the chat as well. So, you're the perfect person to be here for this. You're about to see me stumble around in Windows now. But you can obviously... so Hayden, I work with Hayden Barnes. Hayden is our advocate for canonical for WSL. So Hayden, why I'm working on this is because I want a convenient way I can have a Windows 10 machine in order to experiment with WSL. At the moment, I've had to put it on my XPS 15, but I want that back for something else. So this is one of my motivations. So Hayden says he came here to watch me install Windows. Well, let's see how far we get with that, because I think we're going to have some work to do. So let's just run my script. So I just need to pass one option to this, which is VM and then Windows 10.conf. So in the Windows 10 conf file, I've told it where the ISO image is and where I would like the disk image creating. And if I run... What? Why didn't that work? That's new. Okay. Let's do it. Do it this way. I've obviously got a bug there I'm going to need to fix. Oh! That's the first problem. No. Ah, no, I need to give that the full path now. Okay, I've got an interesting bug there. Right, so, oh my goodness, I've got a Windows logo on the screen. This is a good start. Okay. You can also see on the status here at the bottom, this obviously won't work on Windows at the moment, but I've added an option so that it will automatically pick an open or an available socket from a small pool and automatically pass that through to SSH. So if the client is using, if the guest has SSH, then you can SSH into it. Okay. There we go. Right, we've booted Windows 10. That's good enough for the moment. I think that's good enough for the moment. So, Isno is asking in the chat, what about the VirtIO drivers? Right. That is precisely the point, right? So what I wanted to do was, first of all, just make sure that Quickemu can, in fact, boot Windows without any further modification. I expect if we go through this that it will get to a point where it asks me for a disk and it won't find anything. Yeah, I did choose just oh, there we go. There we go. Next. So it's going to be in simplified English, but other than that, it'll be fine. So install now. I expect that this is the point at which it all starts going wrong, because it won't be able to see any disks. And I don't have a product. Do I just click next? Next. I don't have a product key. What do I click here? Windows 10 Home. Well, I'm a pro. Okay. Let's just wait for that then. This should fail in a moment. So, yes. So, Hayden is pointing out in the chat that you need the drivers for VirtIO. So, my plan is this, is to add a switch to the Quickemu script, let's say --Windows, that will know it's in a Windows mode. In fact, actually, no. It could be way simpler than that. It could be as simple as just adding a configuration option for another ISO, and it will mount both if that's provided. And that's the ISO image where you tell it this is the ISO image for the drivers, and then both ISOs would be mounted. So I'm guessing at some point, I mean, it's been a long time since I've installed Windows and had to put drivers on it. Here we go. Which one do I choose? Install Windows only. I don't know. I'll pick that one. So here we go. This is the situation I was expecting to find. We couldn't find any drives. This is exactly what I was anticipating. So that's fine. So let's have a little look here. If we just switch to here. So the main part of the script which actually boots the machine is, well, way down here is where we source the configuration, but we only do very minimal sanity check in there. I actually pass all of that up to, why didn't this work? Put the full paths in there. I'm gonna have to look into that. That was curious. So at the moment I say CD-ROM. Okay, that's going to have to change because that is the old configuration for supplying a CD drive, and we're going to need two. So I'm going to need to use the drive configuration and probably give them an order so it knows which one to boot off first. So let's just hard code it a little bit for now. So we're going to need to get rid of that. We're going to need to make this a drive. What is it now? It's media equals CD-ROM, because this one's going to be the same, and it's going to be a file pointing to that ISO and index. Is that all I need? Well, let's find out. So that's saved. So we'll go back to here and we'll boot that VM again. That's booted off on a different screen, of course, because, you know, it's going to get old really quickly. But it gives us an opportunity to see another feature here. I used to have to keep deleting images each time I booted, but it says here it's found an image, but it looks unused, so it keeps it around. So that booted, so I haven't broken anything, so that's a good start. So let's just close that, and let's add another line like that, which will hard code to the part. Oh well, in fact, actually, let's not. Let's just do. Let's be real cowboyish about this for the moment. Where's the view terminal thing gone? Oh, there it is. Right. So I'm going to update my configuration. Windows 10. There's the config. So we'll make this super ugly for now. I don't know if you saw the last live stream, Hayden, but I found there's a newer Ubuntu theme. There it is. That's the one we want. For Visual Studio Code. I think this looks cracking. Right then, let's see what's being said in the thing here. So people agreeing that yes, we need the VirtIO drivers. So Isno is asking, is there such a thing as code sharing read-only? Are you talking about Visual Studio Code and live sharing? Because if you are, then yes, that can be a read-only or an interactive session. Hello, Henrik. Henrik's asking, started without snap support. when the stream begun, now have Ubuntu 12.04 installed. 12.04? Do you really mean 12.04? I hope not. There is no snap support for 20.04, he says. Yes, okay, good. Well done, that's fast work. You've installed a distro in the time it's taken me to live stream a few words. Right, okay. Hello Yannick, good evening. Nice to see you again. So we've just sort of cowboyed that in a second ISO file in the config. We'll worry about making this a reproducible thing a bit later. Let's just, we don't need quite that much space. So there we go, and then we'll change that to index 3. What do we think? Is that good enough? Right, let's, I'm hoping Hayden's still around. I saw the new Ubuntu theme for code on Twitter. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Right. Let's go again. So, my question to those of you in the chat is, if you've got, like, now I've got a second ISO mounted, I hope. I assume that it will be exposed to the OS. If I now have a second ISO, then how do I pick the drivers in? Oh, what's that? I don't want that. I don't want extended. Install now. Right. Yannick says I've installed it on mine. What have you installed on yours, Yannick? I assume you mean either QEMU Virtual or Quickemu or both. So Hayden says, I will need to specify a folder to search in and find the storage driver. That's the only driver I need right now. Okay, let's see if we can get that to go. I accept the license terms. I probably don't if I read them, but let's just go with it for now. Oh, load a driver. To install, insert the installation media, then click OK. OK. Aha! Holy cow! Look at that. I choose Windows 10. Hide drivers that aren't compatible with this computer. OK. Next. And look at that, we can only see the disk. So, what do I do now? I guess new, seeing as though I can't do anything else. Ensure that all the windows might create... Okay, whatever. You do whatever you need to do. Format. Okay. I assume that's all I need to do. Next. Holy cow, we're installing Windows. Well, this was easy. Right, okay, so all we need to do is now improve that script, because that's ugly as all hell and that won't work reliably for people. So we'll just unceremoniously kill that, and we'll also I've got this delete option. In fact, actually, before I delete it, so if I do snapshot info, this is the information for the disk that we're using. So we've used 274 megabytes of the, I think, 64 gig that's potentially allocated, and we could create a snapshot based on its current broken state called broken Windows There we go. So that's a snapshot being created there. And you can create more snapshots. More. And then if you want to delete them, you can either delete them by... I think you have to delete them by tag, actually. Broken. Oh, I did add again. Ooh, I wonder what happens if I do delete. Do I delete 2 tags with the same name? No, just the first one. Do it again. And there it goes. There we go. So that's snapshotting, nice and easy. But I want to blow that disk away because we want to start from scratch. So let's throw that away. Right, let's have a little think about this. We've now got multiple ISO images potentially in the configuration. Let's give them names. So I think we need a whole bit of handling stuff here. Lights are flashing again, aren't they? Wow, I need to... This is the second set of lights like this. My top tip is if the lights are $10 then, or £10, they don't last. This is the second set and they're both on the way out already. Right. Let's just have a think about where we want to do this. Probably around here somewhere. So I'm actually thinking there's a whole bunch of stuff here that is not. Let's call this one driver, given that's what it's going to be, and we'll call this one OS. I'm not going to change the name of that one because I'm going to change the code all over the place, and I just want to concentrate on this bit first of all. Let's just take a little look here. So so Yannick has VS Code installed. That's what he was referring to. So Ferran OS is asking me okay, I'm just catching up. Yep. Well, okay, the people are just commenting on that whole process of having those drivers available and how to stand them up. So that is what we're going to call this one. We're going to call this one driver ISO. And we need to... It won't be able to boot off driver ISO, will it? So I've actually thought, whilst I've been thinking this through, I thought there's a bug in my script. Which is this. If I just comment that out for the time being. So there is nothing defined for that one. There's several bugs that this is going to expose, actually. That probably doesn't need to, yeah, it does because it's a file path. I think without the... Oops, I haven't saved the config. So what I'm thinking is that I haven't got any condition handling. Can it do that, Yannick, what you're describing there, chaining paths to ISOs together? Is that how QEMU does it? I've not seen it syntax that seems to support that kind of arrangement. Oh, I see. You're thinking about the configuration file. Ah, right, okay. Yes, could do something like that. So Yannick is providing that you tell it the ISO, you have some sort of delimiter between paths to ISO images, and ooh, it's actually quite nice. I'll give that some thought. Right, so the issue that I think I've identified with my script is I've got no error handling to actually say there is no hard disk, and by the way, you also haven't specified an ISO image, so there's no bootable thing at all. So I probably need to catch that as a condition that we need to be aware of. So if I run this up now with that broken configuration, oh, I've really broken it. There we go. Right, yes. So it does it. It knows that there's no ISO image, and it throws you into the network boot and a bunch of mess here because it knows there's no bootable device. And really, none of you can see that because again, it's put the window on the screen that isn't. So it does this. It's thrown us into the boot firmware. Right, okay. So Isno is saying, I wish I used Python for this script. So I do write a lot of stuff in Python. For these sorts of things, though, where you're basically automating what happens if you were typing things in, I use shell, because then all you end up with in Python is a bunch of, you know, process calls. So I use Python when I'm writing like an actual application, but for this sort of stuff I tend to default to shell. I'm quite comfortable using Bash. I quite like it actually. I think it's when you've I spent some time learning it years ago. Once you know it, it's actually quite a capable language. Right, okay. Oh. Right, we'll get back to that situation, and we need to catch this. So driver ISO we always need to mount. I probably need to do the ISO path testing up here near the top. So that's all of the EFI boot stuff. And then this is where we check that disk images are, and it says here booting from ISO. So maybe I need to do this stuff down here. So what we'll do first of all is say if the ISO path has been set, and it exists. So if the ISO exists, then we'll say we'll create a new thing called we'll create that, and then we'll create exactly the same of that, which is if did I call it boot ISO? Driver ISO, yes. So if the driver ISO is set and it exists, then so that will be replaced. Driver boot. I'm going to change those in a minute. What have I got missing there? Oh. That. Right, okay. So that is the very basic. So it's ISO boot and ISO driver. We'll just change those. ISO boot. Right then, so I think that will do what we want to do. Let's just do I hear oh, I don't know. Let's just catch up where we go. So yeah, people wishing they use Python. Can Bash do arrays? Yes, Bash can do arrays, no problem. And our arrays in Bash are pretty fantastic. I mean, there's some limitations. I wrote something that used arrays extensively. I wrote a game in Bash, and that I created effectively a 256 color and ANSI blitter to do the game engine, and that was all using arrays to pass the sprites around. It would have been nice if I'd passed them by reference, but of course you can't. Oh, in non-English locales. Okay, so Henrik Danielson has said he's submitted some PRs. I'll go and look at those in a moment. That's great, thank you. I'll do that whilst we're on the stream. He's pointing out that I've made assumptions about the units that are going to be used. And the language that's used in the output of the command line tools, and that doesn't work if you are in a non-English speaking locale. So that'll be interesting to take a look at. But with these changes in place, hopefully, now what we should probably do, thinking about it, is let's provide some output up here, because at the moment it's going to set these, but we're not going to know. So let's copy what I did for the disks, and I've lost my there we go. I want to put that whole No, I think we'll just take that. I've got a horrible feeling that's going to have to be there, but okay. Let's just change this to... Right, let's see how we get on with that then. So just some output. So how do I split up Bash? You can source the files. So I'll show you an example. I'll tell you what. As we're here is no, and you're asking, that's one long file. No, it's not. It's like 300 lines or something. 350 lines. Not long. Let's open a file. Gosh, where is this? It's also in this folder, actually. This is a game I wrote, Ants the Alien Attack, which you'll find in the same GitHub repo. This is how you break things up. So I put all the different components of the game and the game engine in different files, and then you just source those just like you would, you know, in your bash RC file. You know, you can source things in there. So that's how you split up bash, and consequently, you know, the main thing is 50 lines. His arrays already, look, there we go, arrays. So yeah, that's how you do it. If you really ask nicely, maybe I'll play Ants the Alien Attack. Oh, I haven't got my joysticks hooked up. Maybe not. Right. Okay. Let's go and boot that machine and see how it works. So just to be sure, I'll delete the disk, make sure that's gone, and boot the machine. Quickly go to a different screen and grab this and pull it down. I'll just stick it to the side there whilst that's booting up. So did it tell us? It said boot, it's booting off that, and drivers, it's booting off the other thing. Okay, that is more or less what we were looking for. I just need to go and tidy that output up. Right, okay. So we fully expect that both of those will be, oh God, goodness me, both of those will be working. Yeah, so Henrik is pointing out that you can use source. Yeah, bash is, it's actually quite decent, you know, for when you can, most people just think it's for, you know, writing tiny little things and all the rest of it. You can write some pretty comprehensive stuff in bash. I've used bash to monkey patch some PHP in an old PHP server that was full of holes and bugs, so that was fun. That was a long time ago, but you can do some weird things with it. Right then, so let's hit load driver, hit OK. Yay, this is working. That's terrific. Right then, well, we fully expect this is just going to work now, don't we? If Hayden is still in the chat, do we think that, you know, with no further changes, I would be able to install Windows? I don't think we've got hours to sit here. Can somebody tell me, how long would you expect a Windows install to take? this is an ISO I've just downloaded, so it should have like most of the necessary updates and stuff. But first install, how long does that take? I realise I need to wait a few seconds, so I'll just wait. So we'll put that to one side. Quite a while. With that spec, 1 hour, somebody's saying, including... I'm not so worried about the reboots and doing all the updates after the fact. Yannick Murray suggests 42 days. Yes. I did an install from Recovery Media on my XPS 15, which in retrospect, not knowing about Windows, was a massive mistake because it was so out of date. It actually took like 2.5 like whole days of applying updates. About 5 minutes for this step, Hayden says. I'm guessing Hayden is a man who has installed Windows a lot of times. 15 minutes, not that long. 30 minutes or so if I'm not doing updates. Well, okay, let's find out. Let's learn together. This install started at approximately midnight my time. Let's see how we go. We can let that run. We can just leave that alone. So, let's go back to my code editor, which I'm struggling to find. There it is. And we need to add another bit of bootstrap sort of robustness around this. So that needs to remain where it was, since it's related to the disk bring up. So I need to do a test here that says if that is that, I then need to say I need another check here, which is if there was no ISO image, if that is full but this does not exist, if it doesn't exist, so actually it needs to be this condition. No, can't be that. It needs to be that it's set and it doesn't exist. This is going to be this test has to happen higher up. Actually, I'm not going to put this test in. That requires a bit too much thought. It's at what point? What is the index equals x for? Well, this is nothing to do with bash. So this is, who's asking that question? This is Isno asking about this line here, I think. By the way, the font's big enough. You can see this okay, I assume. I could. Just make them a bit bigger. Right then. So that's asking about this line here, which isn't actually anything to do with bash. It's part of the QEMU syntax for defining a CD drive. And the index is the order in which they're presented to the host computer. So the boot ISO is presented first, index 2, and index 3 is the driver ISO. And the reason I've done that is that I think, if I'm correct, I'm going from memory, that I have a disk set up beforehand. And the disk is implies index 1. Or maybe it's 0, I don't know. But I'm just defining the order it looks at them. Now, I do seem to remember that all my formatting was off here, so that's install still going. Let's just look at this. So what did I have to do? I just need to move boot up one and move the okay, so that's the formatting of that fixed. I think what we'll do then is we'll consider that good enough for the moment. Yeah, we'll consider that good enough. So let's go to one of my other favourite bits of software, which is this, and that does look a bit teeny tiny. So let's make this is Gitkraken. So Gitkraken is as you might imagine, a front end to Git. And I use this for doing my commits to source. So what I'm looking at here is my Quickemu project, and this is telling me that I've got changes in the script Quickemu. So it's showing me here where I've got code that's been added and code that's been removed. And this is showing me, you know, what I need to do. So down here I'd started trying to get Spice working, and that's not going yet, so I'm just going to leave that alone for the moment. But I will stage these bits and these bits, and I will say now I'll just explain why I've made this change, so if I ever go back to it and look at it I will know. So Isno is asking me about GitLens, which is a Visual Studio Code extension. I've tried to use GitLens, and I've also tried to use GitGraph in Visual Studio Code and Git History, and that's alongside the built-in source control, and it's fine. But Gitkraken is amazing, and earlier this week I finally gave up trying to use everything inside the code editor, so I've removed all the source control components from Visual Studio Code, those extensions like GitLens. I've even turned off in the side panel here the internal source control stuff, and I do everything in here, and you may be able to see I bought a license for this because I just love it, and I've got used to using it, and I find it a very powerful, it exposes all the power of Git without me having to know all of that complicated foo. So here I am, and as you saw I did hunk changes there. So one of the reasons I like this is it's really easy. I know you can do this in other things, but I find this user interface particularly easy for doing this. When I sit down and I'm just coding away, I just do a whole bunch of stuff. I don't think about projects or particular features. I just scattergun code in and around, and then when I've finished I can go back and use this and then say pick these lines and these lines only, and then form that commit that's just that particular feature, and then go back and find the lines of code that were for another feature. So it enables me to code freely but still have good Git commit hygiene, with only committing features in a single commit rather than just add the whole file and I made lots of changes being the commit messages. So add support for boot and driver ISO, install on Windows 10. That lamp is getting on my nerves during a Windows 10 install. Right then, so that's the change. So I've committed the change, and you can now see here's master, and that's master up remote. So what we can also see is, I wonder if Henrik is still in the chat, is because I've hooked this up to GitHub, I can now see that he's filed 2 pull requests. I can see those pull requests waiting for me as well. So I manage my entire GitHub workflow, mostly through this now. So let's see. Yeah, Isno says it's nice breaking up the commits after the fact. It is. So let's take a look at this commit. So I did this the other day, and this, yeah, made that mistake the other day, didn't I? Right, let's just do that. Sorry about that, folks. I need to stop doing that. This multi-screen arrangement means that... Oh, hello, Windows. It's probably been waiting for us for some time. I wonder how many minutes we need to deduct from its setup time. Right, just a moment. Why is it asking, is the keyboard layout right? Yeah, that one. Go. Want to add a second keyboard layout. Skip that. So Henrik's still here. Excellent. I'm going to take a look at your PRs in just a moment and get those merged in. A Rubis Islander. Hello, you. I haven't seen you since UbuCon in Portugal last October. Nice to see you here. Thank you for stopping by. Yes, clackety click. Yeah, it is my actual keyboard, not inspired by Popey's most recent video. Let us connect. It says here. Oh, I see. This is saying I don't have internet, right? Because we haven't installed the appropriate driver. Continue with limited setup. I assume that's what I want to do. I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter. I can do this again later. I picked the right option. Excellent. Okay. Right. How long away are we? Minutes? Hours? Yeah, I mean... What will be interesting to see is if we can get all of the Virgil drivers going in this. I mean, what's a simple thing to install in a Windows machine to test video? I don't have internet. Let's connect you to the network. To finish, you'll need to connect. I don't have internet. Go away. Oh. Am I stuck in a loop here? Continue with limited setup. Let's see what happens. Oh, here we go. It's me. This is exciting. I thought this was going to be harder to get this to work, to be honest. My super secure password for virtual machines is always the same. Yes, I can confirm it. It's test, by the way. Security question. Your answer. Oh, hello. What was your first pet's name? I've never had a pet. Okay. Question 2. I'm going to pick questions to which, in fact, actually, I can do this, can't I? Bye bye, everyone. And then I don't have to reveal anything at all. Right then. That's that one. Third question. Okay. Okay, hopefully we're done with that. I'm pretty sure no is the answer to that question. Decline. I don't want anything. I just want it to start working. Do more. Don't use. No, because I haven't got any. We always want basic information going anywhere, don't we? Improve. No. Gosh. No. No. Okay. Are we nearly finished? Is it installed now? Hello. We're getting everything ready for you. Well, that's lovely. Thank you for that. This might take several minutes. Okay. Well, whilst you're taking several minutes, we'll go and look at these. Oh gosh. Right, okay. This is the right browser for the job. Hopefully this has still got in my paste buffer. There it is. This is the first PR that Henrik sent us, and it says fix a typo in the config, add a missing closing quote. What did we have wrong here? Huh, brilliant. That's totally mergeable. Oh, Windows has made a noise. Oh, look at that. Hello. Crikey. Holy cow, that didn't take long to install, did it? I'm shocked and lights, genuinely impressed. Wow, that's amazing. That's not like how it used to be. Is that because I wasn't connected to the network, Hayden, that it didn't do a bunch of stuff? But anyway, how good is that? We've got Windows 10 installed, so in principle this kind of works. Oh, what have I clicked? Now I'm showing I don't know what I'm doing. Shut down. Wow, so that's pretty normal. So if you grab like the daily or current ISO, then yeah, I'm not going to look at the updates. I'm not interested in that. I just wanted to see if I could get it installed. Now the trick is that we want the ISO. So actually there's more changes I need to make. Let's go and merge Henrik's first thing, because that's great. We'll have that. Right then, let's get that one in. Okay, now there was another one in here, wasn't there? Passing RAM on non-English systems. Let's have a look at this, will be interesting. Ah, that is not what I was expecting the fix to be, Henrik. That is a special kind of genius. This is a very interesting idea. Huh. That is rather clever. I would have never have thought of that. I like that a lot. And the reason why this is useful here is because we're never exposing any of the output of the tools that I'm using to the user. It's all done through Quickemu. So Quickemu is treating the output of things like QEMU image and QEMU itself and free and all the others a bit like an API of sorts. So that is wonderful. There was another thing I was going to do earlier today. I can't remember what it was. It was a tool I was going to pass the output of, and I realised I couldn't do it because I was aware of the fact that that string would be different in different languages, and this is a terrific idea. Love it. Yeah, I really like this idea. What an excellent idea. Right, so before I click this button, Yannick was asking, what does squash and merge actually do? Well, there's different ways you can merge things in GitHub, and I'll show you an example of what I don't like. If we look at this here, if we look at the commits, oh no, here we go. So I did a bunch of work on QEMU Virgil here, and here are all of my commits that I did. And then when Ogra merged them, he merged them the next day, and you get this in here, this merge thing. So you get these stray, you know, commit messages of when somebody merged your code. I'm not a fan of that. So if we just go and look at, well, let's merge this one as well. Squash and merge. And if we now look at the code and the commits as a result, you'll see that we don't get those extra commits. We just get the commit that that Henrik sent us without any additional cruft of me doing merges, which nobody cares about. It's the code that we're interested in. So yeah, that's why I do merge, and sometimes I do a rebase if it's a big thing. But squash, if you've got multiple commits and you think they should be in one commit, then a squash will turn all of those commits into a single commit and just commit one change, and a rebase will apply all of them. Right then, so there we go. So I've done that. Now what are we doing? I can't remember. I've lost my train of thought now. I was so excited for that. Oh yeah, I've got to push my stuff up. So meanwhile, back here, I've got my changes, and we can see that upstream I've now merged those. So we'll pull and fast forward. So I'll pull down those changes to my branch. There we go. And now we'll push everything up. And we're all sorted. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, damn it. Oh well. Okay, anyway, there we go. There's all of the changes are now in there for that. But there's an important change we haven't made. So let's... in fact... what we need to do is we need to add some documentation. So in the README, we can do all of this stuff, and we've got this. So we'll just put some basic instructions there. I've no idea what these are actually called. Are these the like VirtIO drivers? That's always going to be current, isn't it? So we want that one. Which looked exactly like that, in fact. There we go. So, some documentation available. Right then. Hey Rocco, how are you? Rocco's just joined the chat. Isno asks, can I explain the local commit a bit more? What does it do? Git is decentralized, so unlike old-fashioned SVNs, SCMs, you don't commit directly centrally. You commit locally, and then you have to pull in, the changes that others have made, and then push your stuff up to the server. So when I'm committing locally, I'm just committing to my clone of the Git repository, and then when I'm done working locally, maybe I'm on my laptop on a plane, I land, I get Wi-Fi, and I can then push those changes up to GitHub, GitLab, wherever the source code might be. Let's just grab another line for the configuration here, and then we'll just use Quickemu. Right, so that's a change there, which is a documentation change. So the other thing I can do here is there's a preview option for this somewhere, isn't there? Where's that gone? I only installed it the other day. Not that. Definitely not that. Oh well. Right, anyway, back to Gitkraken. So we have that change, which I'm not committing yet. We have the documentation change. In fact, yeah, that'll do. We'll stage that entire file. Now, this issue is actually closed, but nevertheless, I'm going to put the closes flag in there. what was it? It was 7. In fact, maybe I won't put 7. I'll just put reference 7. We'll commit that change. We'll push that up. So if I now go and look at, if I refresh this issue where we got this idea about, you know, making Windows 10 work, you can now see that I've referenced it there. So anyone looking at that issue can now see the commit where we add that information. And now if we go and look at the project readme, we scroll down and we've got this Windows 10 section here explaining what to do. So that is Windows 10 support added. Now I don't know if Hayden is still around. Maybe somebody else knows. Ah yes, no, there is something we needed to add. There's something we needed to add, because what I'd like to try and do is I'd like to try and boot that Windows 10 install back up again, and then install the rest of the virt.io drivers that we need. I don't even know if Virgil is supported on Windows, so that would be one of those little things to check out. But there's a logic error up here. Henrik, just out of interest, what code editor do you use? Oh, I think you used the GitHub web UI, didn't you? Right, Hayden says, as far as he knows, Virgil support on Windows 10 in KVM is experimental and nowhere near as mature as Linux. QXL and Spice are much more common. Okay, so thank you for that. We may still need to add the option to tell a VM that it's in Windows mode in order to change some of the default behavior. So we may do that yet. But before we do, there is a logic error here. These, no, this is fine actually, because that I'd already thought about this scenario. It's fine. I've already written the appropriate logic. Right then, so let's go back to our VM. Let's boot that Windows VM back up. And where it appears, nobody knows. Here we are. Here's Windows 10. So let's see if we can even get it to work. So Henrik says, yes, the first time I was trying the web UI, otherwise it's mostly Vim or PHP Storm. Right, okay. Yeah, PHP Storm, I like the JetBrains products. They're really quite decent. I've tried so many over the years, but I have to say, I'm now like wedded to Visual Studio Code. I likes it a lot. Right, how do I log in? The password is incorrect. Okay. It's test, by the way. Right, so if I open up Explorer, I should see I've got the drivers. There they are. Woohoo! How good was that? So, do I just double click this and let it do its thing? What have we got in here? Let's have a look. Don't see. Anyway, let's just go clickety click. I know nothing. You're going to have to open the device manager, see the devices that don't have drivers, update those drivers, and then point the drivers to your I can't just do this. Martin waits. No, he doesn't. I don't know. I accept these terms. These are terms I recognise. Right then. Balloon network. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here I don't recognise. Maybe I don't want to do this. But what I can see is I do not see. Or I can use the installer. I tell you what, let's just do that. Go on. Go. Next. Boom. Install. Do things for me. It's unknown. Okay. Oh! Balloon. Actually, I don't have that enabled. I should probably turn it on. Arubis Island. Visual Studio Code is awesome. Network. Do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable? It's fine because it's natted anyway. Let's finish setting up. Okay. You didn't need to ask me that. You could have just done it. Yeah, clicking next. Just I'll get even. Oh, now it wants me to complete this. Sign into Windows with Windows. Link your phone. No. No, I don't need any of this. It's a VM. Not now. Okay. So, finish. Device. Can I... Oh, hello. Device. Fine. Bluetooth and other devices? Is this what I want? No. Okay. How do we find that old school device manager thing? Ah, device manager. There we go. Oh, what's this then? What sort of device is that? A root complex. Okay. Go. Okay, whatever that is, it doesn't know about it. I'm just gonna say that's fine. Now what does it have for display adapters? Basic display adapter. So we're gonna have to do what Hayden suggested, I think, here, which is change Windows to not use Virgil, but to add an alternative mode which uses QXL. Restart. I didn't want to restart, did I? But okay. Well, actually, let's see what happens on a restart. Since we've got a bunch of drivers installed now, let's see if anything interesting happens whilst we're here. Oh, Martin is not happy about these lights. Well, I started installing Windows at midnight. It's only 40 minutes later. And not only is it installed, but I did a bunch of other stuff. I did 2 merge proposals, did some code of my own. We actually sat around for 10 minutes whilst we weren't paying attention to what Windows was doing. So I'm genuinely surprised how little time it takes to install Windows these days. Particularly in a VM. That's entirely useful. Right. Come on. What do I do? What do I do to wake you up? Oh, yeah, I'll get my mouse pointer in the right screen. There we go. Okay, let's just try something for fun. Let's just do that. No dice. But, terrific. So, okay, how do I get to network drives on these things? Because technically, network file sharing is turned off. How do I tell it where to go? I know exactly the path I need to go to. Can I type that in somewhere? Mapper network drive. There we go. It's just like how I used to remember it. Right, okay. 10.0.2.4 QEMU. Don't reconnect. Finish. Ah, winning! To install WSL, I need to... so Bill is asking, so install WSL. I need to get on the Insiders ring, which is a load of updates, and we don't have time for that this evening. Maybe another day. Or maybe Hayden Barnes is also going to start live streaming soon, seeing as though he is the world authority. Quite literally. Right, okay, so that's awesome. That's all working really nicely. So let's shut down and let's go and see if we can get QXL working, knowing nothing about QXL. We'll hard code it for now. So, Hayden, is it possible to download a Windows ISO from Microsoft that is the like current Insider build? Right then, so let's just go and see if we can monkey this in. Well, I'm literally making this up. I don't know if this is right. Huh. I'm going to have to find out what that was, because let's have a look down here. So, vir.io VGA. Let's just stick that down there. Device. QXL. Yeah. And turn that off. Do that. I don't know. That might work. Let's find out. Oh, come on. Right. Something's happening. Oh, hang on. I need to go and grab... Oh, gosh. Oh, hello. I'm very confused what I'm looking at now. Well, the first problem is I appear to have two instances of Windows running, and I very deliberately put a thing in my script earlier to stop that from happening, which clearly doesn't work. So UUP-dump will auto-generate a PowerShell or Bash script to handle it all for you. You can download builds on all the rings. Where and what is UUP-dump? I can't believe what's happening here, and it must be broken, right? I mean, how is this going to work? It can't be running two VMs off the same image. That's just nuts. I'll turn this one off. Ah. Interesting, there's no mouse cursor in that one. Oh. Oh, it's the same VM, just... Oh, that's weird. Okay. Maybe this is part of the problem of not having QXL set up properly. Yeah, they are two monitors, but they're like the same monitor. Can you see? I'm like, I don't know how I've done that. I think what we'll do is we'll just try and move that one to one side so I can see the other one in its entirety. Let's just shut this one down. Shut down. What the heck happened there? I know. It's like it has set up two displays or two. Yeah, I'm very confused what I'm seeing there. If anyone knows how we're supposed to configure QXL in QEMU, that would be handy. Failing that, we'll have to learn. Let's find out. I'm using the wrong flag. Okay. Okay, let's try that then. So, it looks like it might be that. Let's find out if that's improved it. Okay. And some, oh no, VGA unknown VGA type. Okay, so it doesn't like that. Maybe it doesn't like the resolution that I'm handing to it. So let's stop doing that. Try that again. Now, that started a single window this time. Let me go and grab it. Bring it down here. Okay. Oh, I've moved off the chat screen. There we go. Right, let's have a look here. What have we got? So it wasn't dual monitor. It was a misconfiguration in QEMU that had somehow, created two screens. That wasn't my intention. So Henrik says it's interesting that the Quickemu script uses XDG session X11. Yeah, that was the way that I do the screen resolution enumeration is to use xrandr, which is obviously only works under X11. I found some reference material on how to do this in Wayland, but it was non-trivial, so I just added a thing in there to say if it's X, do these things. Oh, that light, man. If it's X, do these things. And if it's Wayland, it just picks a hard-coded value at the moment. I'll have to figure that out at some point. So we're back into Windows. Oops. That light is really playing up now. So I should be able to display settings and choose something sensible from here, right? Okay. Let's go with that there. In fact, actually, we can. Yeah, that will work just fine, won't it? Keep these changes. So, Okay, interesting. But so Henrik says that detection of X11 isn't working. He's on Enlightenment. So that maybe Enlightenment doesn't support the free desktop specifications for that stuff if it's not setting the session type. Or is it not using a display manager? Are you starting Enlightenment, from the console? Could be. I mean, I'm guessing. I haven't used Enlightenment for donkey's years. I think today I found their user. Well done. So I suspect that delay on boot was Windows switching from the basic display driver to the QXL, but you'll need to check in Device Manager. Okay, Device Manager it is. Let's go and find out. Display adapters. Hey, look at that. Isn't that cracking? So we now need to add something to Quickemu to say this is Windows. And it should be treated differently. In fact, we could probably get away with a slightly bigger resolution. What are my options? Oh dear, no. Revert. We don't like that. Maybe we'll just keep that as it is. It's perfectly usable. Ah, right. So Henrik confirms that he isn't using a display manager and he is using StartX. So that is why you are getting TTY in that environment variable. I don't know what to do about that really. I suppose I could look for the display environment variable and the X11 socket and see if those exist versus the Wayland display not existing in the environment and the socket not existing, and trying to do something extra there. So I could make that more robust for sure. If you've got thoughts about that, you know how to do pull requests. Pull requests welcome for sure. Right then, let's go and have a little think about this. I think that being Windows is... So what have we got here? So Hayden, I assume then... Oh, right, okay. Thanks for stopping by, Hayden. I won't ask the question. I'll figure it out. So we need to put together these things here. I'm not adding code specific for Enlightenment for sure. So what have we got? We want take that line. We're going to add something in here which is going to be so we'll just put a placeholder variable in there. We'll then do something along these lines. We'll say something, we'll move this around, but we'll put something in that says if the video driver So what we're doing here is just composing different strings to insert into the QEMU configuration based on what video driver is selected, and we'll just put a catch-all in here because we haven't needed that so far, and I think it's something like -VGA stood or something, I think is like the standard QEMU video driver. I'm not certain about that. So video dev, that is down here, video dev. Okay, so that looks fine. Where does it, I was doing other video stuff further up, so I'll move that bit of code up with where I was doing all the other. Here we go. So I do some conditionals here for the display. So I'll put that in there, and in here we'll say Virgil equals off. I think we'll need to do the same for that one, and we'll leave GL on, and that's fine. So if we do that, that should let's have a look. What have we got here? It Swirls. Hello there, how are you? It Swirls, who's just joined the chat, is the lead for the Ubuntu Cinnamon remix, which is being bootstrapped at the moment. And he's asking, is this what I use instead of VirtualBox and that stuff? And yes, it is. So Isno says it's a CLI front end for Virt Manager. No, it's not. It's a CLI for QEMU specifically, or QEMU Virgil specifically. I didn't want to be using any UI tools. The reason being is that the script that manages this, and the ISO images and the VM disk images and the configuration can all live on a USB stick, and I can move it around from machine to machine without having to worry about config of GUIs and all the rest of it. So this was specifically designed to create very quickly lots of VMs and be able to carry them on a USB stick, because I had nearly 1 terabyte of virtual machines at one point, which I obviously can't carrying around on a laptop without exhausting all of my laptop space. So this was the origins for this script. But then just recently I thought, well, we've got 2004 coming up. This is a nice way to okay, lost in translation. Isno is saying he was trying to be funny with the Virt Manager reference. But hopefully this is an easy way for people to test out, particularly Linux distros, because all of this acceleration stuff is built in. So I think that is going to do the right thing. So I need to set the, oh, there's a typo there, and one here as well. In fact, what we'll do is so that's going to be my default, and we want a flag. So let's go and add a new flag down here. In fact, we need to add something in the output, don't we? So in the display settings output, we need to say Virtual 3D output, and then we need something like so that should capture that there, and then let's turn this on with a flag for the time being. So down here we'll add a new flag. Because this is quicker than the other option at the moment. Oh, actually no, think about it. Let's do this. That's nice and easy, isn't it? Windows equals 1. And then up here somewhere we can say offset by. So we'll just now check to see if that is set. So we'll say if Windows let's do it the other way. I want that to be dominant. So in fact, that becomes our test, doesn't it? There we go. That's an easier test, isn't it? So if Windows is not equal to 1, I wonder if this will work in the eventuality that environment variable isn't set at all. We'll find out. Yes, no, I just spotted I was at 3 spaces. Thank you. Control D. I wonder why Control D. I don't know what I was doing. Right, let's boot that up, and hopefully we'll see. Oh, the driver didn't display. Okay, so I'm just going to kill that virtual machine. You didn't see that up here, but it did. So driver didn't output anything, so let's just go and check why that was. Ah, I see. Because I've removed the very thing that let's do. Okay. Let's try that. That should improve the situation. There we go. And that's working correctly. So that has picked up... you can see... Oh my goodness, this... Not remembering the screens. So that picked up the right change in that it picked up the QXL thing from that Windows being 1 in the config. So that was nice and easy. We could probably add some heuristics to detect whether we think it's going to be Windows based on, like, is Windows in the name of the configuration file probable that it's going to be. You want to turn that feature on. So what could I install to test the graphics performance of this thing? Let's think. What could we install? It's not too massive. I bet this doesn't exist. I'm only thinking of this because I know roughly what performance it should generate. GL Mark II. Whoa. Oh gosh, that wasn't helpful. Let's see, is this going to work? Have they got a release file for a Windows build? Nope. I'm not wedded to this, I just was wondering if they'd... Let's just read that message again, see if they've got a... No, that looks like that is a long way from being done. Okay, no, not doing that. Let's see, anyone got any ideas of what are they called? What are those benchmarks called? Let's go and grab one of these. Well, Heaven I'm somewhat familiar with, so it's not too big. Let's pick that. I don't know if there's any kind of acceleration or not here. That's why I was tempted to try it out and see what happens. Geekbench, good idea. Also a good one. I've never run Geekbench on Windows, which actually you could change that statement. I've never run blank on Windows because the chances are I haven't. But I watch videos and I know that that is a tool that people use. It's a bit more fancy on the old Windows, isn't it? On account of it being a Geekbench save. View downloads. Oh yes. I just noticed that I maximized... No, something else. I wonder if this does... Yeah, it does, look. So this... Or does it? No, it doesn't. Bother. That's nearly there. I don't have the fastest internets in the world. Anyway, the point of this is to see, is there any kind of GL handoff to the host OS or not using QXL? I don't know if there is, but just curious. That's blooming light. You can see the effect it has on the chroma key when that goes out. Right. Let's go and install that one. One of the reasons I've chosen Unigine Heaven is not because it's new, but when I overclock my Linux workstations, Unigine is particularly sensitive to unstable overclocks on the CPU and the GPU, and it will hard lock, unlike others that will introduce artifacting, which you may not be able to see particularly clearly. Unigine will just lock the system up, so it's a great overclocking tool because you know when you're hitting the limits because it just freezes the system. We don't need any of that information. Go! Put files on my computer. Okay. How long have we been going for? I've no idea. Can't even remember when I started, but I mean, this is a long one. This wasn't intended to be succinct. This was me just noodling around. Oh, right. Okay, we've clicked run. Let's see what this does. Maybe we should close the browser. Later. Is this a CPU benchmarking tool, or can it do... Oh, I want graphics. Right. No compatible devices found, so that won't go. So that's ominous. That sounds like... Oh! Was not found. Okay. I wonder what magical runtime that's in. Visual C. Okay. I'm going on faith this is going to fix that. Close all tabs and no. Okay. I'm losing interest now. Right, Windows is doing its thing. So shut down. So I hacked a couple of bits together. I cowboyed some things in, and I'm just going to go and clean this up. So what I think we should have here is we should have a video DRV thing here, which we set to QXL. I think that it's an attribute that you associate with the virtual machine. So I think we should do that. And then we don't need to do any of this stuff here. We can just do I might have needed a reboot. Oh, okay, well, alright, let's try that then. Our edited file is made interesting output appear. Let that boot up. Oh, this lamp. Going straight on Amazon after this, buying new lights, getting proper ones this time. Urgh. This has turned into a weird live stream, hasn't it? Watching a Linux nerd try and fumble around in Windows. Are you going to run? No, didn't think so. Right. Never mind. The important thing is it shut down. We've actually been able to install Windows. So I'm just going to go in and do a bit of code cleanup because I've sort of hacked in that Windows support there. So what we want to do is along the lines of do that. There we go. So we'll say if video drive is set, and up here will not set any of that. Yeah, it's not set there. And that's doing the right thing, I think. So if we expressly set it, we'll add that to our instructions for Windows 10 here. Right, that's looking pretty good. So what we're looking at here then. So somebody's welcoming me to Windows. Yes, as you can see, I'm very much a fish out of water operating a Windows computer. VirtIO's OpenGL drivers is what's missing. Isna says, so what does that mean? Open the device manager to see what's missing. Okay. And Farron says, during this time I managed to improve Theranos' grub a bunch. Open the device manager to see what's missing, Isna says, and Rubis Islander says there are several versions of the Visual C++ redistributables. You need the one that binary was compiled against. Well, the one I installed was from 2010. The benchmark was from 2009. I thought they would have been of a similar era. Well, we need to test this configuration anyway, so let's do that. And we'll boot that back up again. That has worked. Okay, so that's nice. I've got a nice way to make that a machine-specific configuration. I need to drag this window back where you wanted it. So another thing that I did was I got full duplex audio working. So if I just... Oh, no, I can't. Oh, I can actually. I can drag that down, can't I? So if I go over here, boink, let's make that smaller. Sorry, I was off on different workspaces, but if I bring this down, here's Pavu control, and what you can see here is that I've been able to label the audio interfaces in Quickemu. So when you're looking at Pavu control, you know that this is the the mixer for that virtual machine, and also the input as well, also labeled. So that's a nice handy feature, I think. Right, let me just bring that back where it was. And I can close that. Oh, this light, man. Right, so what else are we looking at here? So Isna says, if you have the time, why do you need the variables in, he's asking, in the curly braces and not in others? Well, let's have a look. Let's see if I can find an example of when I did that. So, when the variable is assigned, you don't put braces in them. You can get away without the curly braces here, for example, and just use the dollar to reference the variable. However, putting the braces around the variables defines exactly what is the variable versus what are other strings. And I find it easier to read you know, otherwise you have to sort of getting in some sort of, you know, so I always put the braces. And if I'm using a variable in a file path or a file name, I always put double quotes around it so that they're effectively escaped and they can be referenced correctly, you know, if you've got funny characters and what have you. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so Aruba's Islander is it turns out is a fan of VS Code. Yes, you can add notation. I do use it somewhere. So, for example, inside the curly braces, Yannick is pointing out, you can add notation. You can, and I use it just here. In fact, you see the double caret in that string that says uppercase that variable. So I'm moving UI around in lowercase because that's how the QEMU configuration expects it to be seen. But when I display it, I want to display that particular variable all in all caps. So that's one example of what you can do with variables with filters. I better remove that. That will confuse the heck out of me otherwise. Right, we were running Windows somewhere, weren't we? Here it is. So that's not the right password. No, the right password is test. I keep telling you. Why are we here? Oh, device manager. Device manager. Okay, so what do you think's missing? There's this thing. I've no idea what that is. Isno, I'm glad that you're learning something about Bash. It's pretty great. It's quirky, but it's good fun. So what am I doing then? Something about, is there a thing on here that's, no, that's a graphics card, isn't it? Update. So if we go and look at my CD, is there anything in the CD that we could install that we don't have installed? QXLDOD, what's that then? No idea. Those are INF files, right? No. Open. Install. Doink. I have no idea what this is looking at. We're installing it though. That did do something bad to the display. Okay. Oh, there you go. Well, whatever that was, it didn't like that, did it? Let's look at the Arch link I posted. I don't see a link, I'm afraid. Anyway, I've just broken Windows, so I think that is the world telling me it's time to commit my changes for this. So we have a couple of changes here. One which is for applying the appropriate driver, and another which is, yeah, okay, so that's white space cleanup. So let's just, so this is an example of where I'm not going to stage everything, right? So I'm going to stage these lines here. And I'm going to stage that line only. And that line only. Oh, hang on. This is one of these weird situations where it's going to take both, isn't it? Oh, you. One minor frustration with the back to the code editor. Down here, Is that really committed? I didn't think it was. There we go. Right, so those are my changes that I want to commit for this here. So and if I now go back to here and Control Z that and save it again, and now back here, you can see here I've got a couple of lines where I've got some white space that has been cleaned up, so we'll just go in there. That's the change. And we'll push those changes up. So I think we're achievement unlocked on this one, right? We've taken that. We've proven that we can install Windows. I've also proven I can break Windows. Right clicking on INF files and choosing open. But that's a success. So what turned out as a little question from the community earlier was kind of a thought experiment for me. And I got to put 2 pull requests out of this as well. So thanks very much, Henrik. This goes to show that, you know, doing the me tinkering around and working on stuff with a few people following along is good, because one of the things is I want to learn in this process, and I learnt something tonight. So I think that was terrific. So thanks very much for that. Now, nobody will be watching, re-watching this far in, but let's do it anyway. Like it, subscribe, definitely subscribe, and the other thing, that bell, I've worked out you have to ding the bell and choose all. That's really good for Google. And the reason I want people to follow this channel, subscribe to this channel, is I'm trying to get 2,000 subs. So that it unlocks the community tab, and then I can do a bit more engagement with people when we're not actually doing the videos, ask questions and find out what you want me to follow up on when I do videos. I'm probably going to do one of these tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Sunday. But it won't be like this. I think I've got a backlog of stuff I need to be working on for Ubuntu Mate. So it'll be me getting stuff done, updating packages in Ubuntu and Debian, going around the projects and looking to see if there's any patches that I need to hoover up and apply, things of that sort. So yeah, it'll be Debian Ubuntu development stuff, things that I need to get done really. So thank you all for coming. For those of you that stuck with me for all the way through this, I really appreciate it, because that was a long one, 2.5 hours I think. And I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one of these, which hopefully be tomorrow. So thanks everyone. Bye for now.